3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Thomas Hammock, the head football coach at NIU, the only coach right now in the country to defeat Notre Dame this past year. He's going to join us to preview the national championship game that comes your way on Monday evening between Notre Dame and Ohio State. So he'll join us at 4:20 p.m. Eastern, 1:20 p.m. Pacific today. We'll actually be live in Atlanta on Monday, broadcasting prior to the national championship game. So that should be fun right here from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. And then Zack Rosenblatt, who covers the NFL and is a Jet senior reporter for The Athletic, he's going to be joining us at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific today. We'll get all the latest on the lowdown when it comes to the coaching search in the NFL. But last night, this is where we got to start the show. Sam Darnold's back. And that's not a good thing. Seeing ghosts, getting mono, that type of Sam Darnold is back. And it was a fun journey. It was a fun ride. It gave me more than I could have ever imagined. I never thought heading into this football season that we were going to spend this much time talking about Sam Darnold. But think about how quickly it changed. Because in the offseason, when we were told, okay, Sam Darnold, there's a chance that he's going to start over J.J. McCarthy, I said, why are you wasting our time? Even if I don't believe that J.J. McCarthy will be a great NFL quarterback, he's the 10th overall pick in the draft. Why not start J.J. McCarthy week 1? Then J.J. McCarthy gets hurt. You find out he's going to be out for the season. And this did become Sam Darnold's team as QB1. And Sam Darnold this year had a good regular season. But a lot of people had this take following Sam Darnold's game up against the Green Bay Packers on December 29th, where he was 33 of 43 for 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. A lot of people believed, okay, Sam Darnold is going to be their quarterback next year. Where it's kind of funny, because leading into that game, we had Ben Lieber on, who is a part of the Vikings organization, former Vikings linebacker, and also is the team's radio analyst. And Ben Lieber was on this show, and I said to him before that game up against Green Bay, hey, I believe Sam Darnold's going to be elsewhere next year. They're still going to hand the baton over to J.J. McCarthy because the price is going up and up and up and up on Sam Darnold, and I believe that the Vikings are going to stick with their plan. But after that Green Bay Packers game, where Sam Darnold walks into that locker room, the entire team is throwing water at him, and linemen are throwing him up over their shoulders, and they're celebrating, and Kevin O'Connell's in the background as if he was a proud pop, just sitting there and looking like he's crying tears of joy. There was a feeling, even if you were in my camp, that Sam Darnold wasn't going to be back next year with the Vikings. There was a hold up, pause, wait a minute. Uh-oh, Sam Darnold may be back with the Minnesota Vikings. And as quickly as you were able to think that, it then went into thin air and evaporated, and then really did disappear last night on Monday Night Football for the final wildcard game. You look back at that Lions game, all the good Sam Darnold juju, all the Sam Darnold magic, the week that people were praising him after his performance up against the Green Bay Packers, it went right out the window. Because in that Lions game, he looked like a deer in headlights, he was jittery, and he was missing multiple passes high to TJ Hawkinson, to Jordan Addison, and to also Justin Jefferson. But even with that poor performance, where you saw the Minnesota Vikings going from potentially being the number 1 overall seed to the 5th seed, there was a thought of, okay, let's see Sam Darnold back up against the wall. Can he redeem himself? And I was flip-flopping on this game. I picked the Rams. I like the Rams plus the points. I said that yesterday. I ended up taking the Rams on the money line, which, cha-ching, was good for your boy last night. But Sam Darnold last night, he was horrible. And what Sam Darnold did last night was he guaranteed that he will not be the Vikings quarterback next year. It's going to be J.J. McCarthy. They're going to go to the 10th overall pick, and who knows what J.J. McCarthy's ceiling is. Can J.J. McCarthy be good in this Vikings offense? Yes. Do I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a great quarterback? No. But I would much rather see the unknown with J.J. McCarthy on the rookie scale and paying him on a rookie contract than having to give, I don't know, somewhere starting at 35, maybe even going into $40 million a year for Sam Darnold, if not north of that. Because now I don't know what Sam Darnold's going to get this offseason. Because we went from a conversation 2 weeks ago where, wow, Sam Darnold's price is going up, 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 up. Right? Sam Darnold went from the Baker Mayfield contract to maybe this is going to be a $45, $50, $55 million a year quarterback. And now today, I don't have a damn clue what Sam Darnold's going to get paid, what he's going to get paid. But the price for Sam Darnold, the stock, it's down. Because what he did the last 2 weeks, I have never really seen a player in this kind of ride, in this kind of journey this year, where Sam Darnold was left for dead, right? Sam Darnold was a punchline to seeing ghosts and getting mono when it comes to the quarterback position. Like, he was a joke. He was a bust. His NFL career was sent to the pit of misery of being a backup quarterback. And then this year, he had a really good season. For most of the year, for 3.5 months, we were praising Sam Darnold. Where, yes, at first it was like, I don't know, I'm skeptical. Let's see what's going to happen in October. But it just kept on progressing where the story kept on getting better and better and better. And the last 2 weeks, all of that just went poof. And it's gone. And it's over with. I have never seen a story like this where in one football calendar season, a player was written off, a player was a joke, a player was an afterthought, and for the majority of the season, he's been one of the feel-good stories in the NFL. I don't even know how you determine comeback player of the year anymore. I think we actually caused a change in the criteria for comeback player of the year when we had Joe Flacco on the show last year, and he's like, what did I come back from? Being on the couch? So you're not supposed to vote for comeback player of the year for someone that was just terrible. That's Sam Darnold. He didn't overcome adversity that was an injury. He just wasn't good. Now, do I think Sam Darnold should win comeback player of the year? Yeah, I do. But I don't even know how to vote on it. I don't even know how you're supposed to vote on it. But these last 2 weeks, it went from Sam Darnold at the beginning of the year being on the floor, being underneath. And now he was rising and rising and rising and rising and rising. And then when you went up against the Detroit Lions and the LA Rams, he came falling down and he crashed. It's a wild story. It is truly an unbelievable story. And the way that I look back at Sam Darnold this year is, man, he was truly unpredictable. No one would have thought he would have had this good of a season. And then even if you were his biggest critic after the Packers game, you gave him praise, and now 2 weeks later, that's all gone. It's a wild story. And I don't see how Minnesota now says, okay, we're going to bring Sam Darnold back. Now, if Sam looks at this and says, I need Minnesota more than they need me, and I will take a significant discount, then maybe it's a conversation that you have. But then if that's the case, what do you do with J.J. McCarthy? And I don't think the Vikings are trading J.J. McCarthy. They invested a 10th overall pick with him, and he hasn't played a game yet. So the way that I felt last night when we saw Sam Darnold, and hey, he got sacked 9 times. The offensive line didn't play well, but he held on to that ball way too long. And there were moments where he had receivers wide open and he couldn't even see them. The seeing ghost Sam Darnold was back. He was back last night. Because I don't know what the heck he was seeing, because there was open players and he just never saw them. So what a bizarre story. Think about it. If I would have told you before the year, what if I told you that Sam Darnold would have had the 5th most passing yards in the league and the 5th most passing touchdowns? Your response would be, first off, Zach, what are you smoking? Then you would say, okay, he's going to get a monster contract. But now, after these last 2 games, would you feel good paying Sam Darnold a big contract? I wouldn't. And it stinks. It's unfortunate. And 1 or 2 games shouldn't change what someone did over the course of the season. But in this case, and at that position, it absolutely positively does. What a wild, and I just mean wild story. If you want to encapsulate the performance of Sam Darnold last night, my favorite, and I don't want anyone to get upset with me. If you're a sensitive broadcaster, turn the radio off right now. But my favorite, and I'm going to particularly word this, NFL radio play-by-play guy is Paul Allen. Because Paul Allen, when he gets a big call, he sounds like a fan. I love that, and he's very descriptive. But then when something doesn't go his way, sometimes these team broadcasters, they're afraid to be critical. They're afraid to upset and annoy the organization. That ain't Paul Allen. Because Paul Allen will wear his emotions on his sleeve, and he will tell you exactly how he's feeling. This is one of the sacks last night that Sam Darnold held on to the ball way too long, and this was in the first half. Listen to the Vikings Radio Network play-by-play man, the great Paul Allen.
Addison in motion to the right. 2 receivers left. Rams blitz. Darnold gets away from it. Steps up in the pocket. He's holding it too long.
Just run.
Throw it, man.
Just run.
At the 25-yard line, he's sacked for a 5th time.
All he's got to do is pull that thing down and run and get as much positive yardage as he can. There were 5 to 7 yards easy there to be made.
Now, I like Drew Bledsoe a lot. Some people may be saying, why the heck is Zach bringing up Drew Bledsoe? But in my early years watching football, Paul Allen sounded like my uncle Gary, who would be sitting on the couch and he'd be watching Drew Bledsoe, who was a good quarterback. And he would hold on to the ball sometimes way too long. And I just heard my Uncle Gary in that call. That's what it reminded me of. Sitting on the couch, throw the ball away, Drew. Come on, come on. And that was Paul Allen. He's holding on to the ball way too long.
He's holding it too long.
Just run.
Throw it, man.
Just run, Paul.
And that's what makes Paul Allen the best. But he's 100% right. And you know what, Stu? I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who do you think is the biggest person we blame for the downfall of Sam Darnold and what has happened the last 2 weeks? If you just had to take a guess.
Are we blaming himself, like Sam Darnold himself, or it has to be someone else?
You could take that question however you want. If you want to blame Sam Darnold, if you want to blame a certain talk show host, I don't know. You just let me know. You can come up with the answer. See if you can get it right.
There might be a certain talk show host that hosts on this network that used to be your producer that might have had some very kind words for the Vikings and Darnold of late.
December 30th, 2024. Sam Darnold is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. The tweet, the segment, Mr. Hick at Night, Hot Take Hickey, the Hickey Hex. 2 weeks later from that, Sam Darnold went from being a sensation, a lovable story, a feel-good story, to an absolute bum. Like with his performance the last 2 weeks, where he just looked absolutely lost. Sam Darnold learned these last 2 weeks that the Hickey Hex is completely undefeated. That's what he's learned. And I think there's a difference, right? Because you went into this postseason, or you went in like a few weeks prior to the postseason saying, there's only 3 teams that could probably get to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. Not the Cowboys. They get on my mind with Mike McCarthy. But the Eagles, the Detroit Lions, and the Minnesota Vikings. But once the Vikings lost and couldn't get the 1 seed, it really felt like this was a 2-team race. It felt like it was a 2-team race between the Eagles and the Detroit Lions. Because the Vikings needed that home field advantage. They needed the 1 seed, and they couldn't get it. But I think there's a difference, if this makes sense, which it may not when you hear it first, in saying, okay, the Vikings can make the Super Bowl. And then when you word it as Sam Darnold is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, there's a difference. Like, you could get to the Super Bowl, but if I put you on a different team, do I think that you could go have that success elsewhere? No, I do not. And Sam Darnold, through the majority of the year, I would say, I looked at the Vikings. I like their team. But with Sam Darnold, when I try to envision, would they be in the Super Bowl? I think they needed that 1 seed. And once they didn't get that 1 seed, and with how poorly he played up against the Detroit Lions, things got ugly, and they got ugly real quick. What do you think the Vikings are going to do with Sam Darnold moving forward? 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Let's listen up to Kevin O'Connell, the head football coach of the Minnesota Vikings, as he takes a look back on Sam Darnold's season.
A winning quarterback this year and the consistency at the times he had it throughout the year and what that meant for our team, because I think that can stay with him moving forward as he goes back to work. Proud of him, proud of really everybody in that locker room, but Sam and the journey him and I went on this year will always be something that's a special place in my heart for sure. I think it's very important we all think about Sam's body of work, what he was able to do this year, when not very many people thought he would be able to lead a team to 14 wins. Very rare for a quarterback in their first year. In fact, it is rare, the most wins by a first-year quarterback.
And then let's get to Sam Darnold and his first-round exit after a 14-win season.
At the end of the day, all that matters is when you have a good season, what do you do in the playoffs? And we didn't get it done to then, and that's all that matters.
Is that what you'll take away from it? Nothing about during the...
I'll have a lot of time after this to be able to think about, what the season entailed. But to be honest, I'm, just thinking about today and what I could have done better.
So some coaches speak there, and some players speak as well. I don't know if you caught this, Stu. Kevin O'Connell may have indirectly gave away what he thinks he believes is going to happen at the quarterback position. It seemed as if, I know he's asking to recap the season and things like that and Sam's performance, but there was a few times there in the first cut that there was some past tense. And it seemed as if, that's the way I interpreted it, as if it was a goodbye to Sam Darnold, because this organization's plan prior to the season was, before JJ got hurt, to eventually hand the baton over to JJ. But then even for most of the season, it was after the year, that's when they would give the baton to JJ McCarthy. And with these last two performances, Sam Darnold made it close prior to the last two, but then all that good momentum right out the window. So I don't think Sam Darnold's going to be back. I don't think he's going to be back with the Minnesota Vikings. All righty, we'll take a break. 855-212-4227. What say you on that? When we do return, Coach Prime, you want to talk about roller coaster rides with the Minnesota Vikings and Sam Darnold? How about Coach Prime when it comes to taking an NFL job? We'll get into all what he said in the past and how it's aging today when we come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll get to all this Coach Prime stuff and Jason Witten stuff, too. That's the way that the Cowboys start a coaching search. It's how could we concoct the most drama and kind of stir up the cauldron that is the Cowboys. Throw Coach Prime's name in there. Throw Jason Witten's name in there as well. We'll see if either are going to get the job. I'll give you my opinion on that in just a bit. But let me go out to the phone lines first. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Let's go to Tony in Toronto, who wants to chime in on my opinion of Sam Darnold. Tony, what's happening?
Hey, how you doing? I'd like to comment and say this. I think you're being a little bit too quick and maybe harsh on Darnold. And let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Herbert, he didn't have a great game.
Sure.
He had just as bad a game. But we're not talking about Herbert. Lamar Jackson, almost all of the playoff games he's been in, I'd rather have Sam Darnold in there than Lamar on the games that he's like stunk the joint out as well.
Wait. Did you watch Lamar Jackson the other week?
Yeah, but I'm talking about historically.
You'd rather have Sam Darnold over Lamar Jackson? I'm not saying Lamar's been a great playoff quarterback, but he's a two-time MVP.
I'll tell you why.
Why?
I'll tell you why. You said Sam Darnold probably be $30 million. I'd rather have Darnold at $30 million than Jackson at $60 million.
Are you kidding me?
Take that other
you
$30 million.
know Lamar Jackson's a two-time MVP, could be a three-time MVP. Lamar Jackson is a top 5 quarterback in the league. Sam Darnold had a good 3-month stretch. You know that, right?
Okay. How many rings does Lamar have?
0. How many rings does Sam Darnold have?
0.
Yeah.
And
how many MVPs does Sam Darnold have?
0.
And how many MVPs does Lamar Jackson have?
3.
Okay. So by your analysis, let me just ask you this then. Let me just see something here, Tony.
Let me finish up.
I will, but Tony, let me ask you a question here. Would you rather have Josh Allen or Sam Darnold?
Josh Allen.
How many Super Bowls does Josh Allen have, though?
0.
Okay. So why would you then not want Lamar over Sam Darnold? If your argument was you'd rather have Sam Darnold because he's cheaper and he's never won, then why is it different for Josh Allen than Lamar Jackson, who
Now we're going to get into the personality traits. Josh Allen seems to be a rah-rah team guy. Lamar, that episode when he had that injured leg, where he didn't even show up for that game with Cincinnati, where he could have been there, from that point,
Tony, you just don't like Lamar Jackson. Let's just be real.
No, not that. No.
You think Lamar Jackson's a bad teammate?
Yeah, that he's not as great like see Mahomes. You remember Mahomes when he got that injury on his knee?
Okay.
Andy Reid couldn't even get him off. Okay.
Yeah. Do you know Lamar Jackson at all? Have you talked to any Lamar Jackson's teammates?
No, I haven't.
Because they would vehemently disagree with you.
I do listen to shows like you guys have, and other programs and whatnot. And it was made a point when he didn't show up, and he was wanting basically to hold the team out for give me more money. That's why he, I guess, was upset and wouldn't show up. I forgot what playoff game it was against Cincinnati when it was 2 years ago, whatever it was.
I think it was Hubbard had that big return for the Bengals, when it was Snoop Huntley playing.
He could he not have shown up to give support to his team? He is overall the team leader, supposedly. And why would you do that to your teammate?
So that's fair, but he wasn't playing in the game. So if he's not there or not, who cares?
It doesn't matter.
So Tony, this is your argument. Because he was hurt, and I didn't love that he didn't show up, to be clear, but he was hurt and he didn't show up. That's why you would rather have Sam Darnold over Lamar Jackson, even though Lamar Jackson is 30 times the player that Sam Darnold is and is a top 5 quarterback in the league.
He's not 30 times the player.
Yes, do you understand how stupid you sound? Seriously.
Really?
Yes.
But you hear
you are saying you'd rather have Sam Darnold over Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. 32
Right.
GMs would disagree with you. 32.
Right. But now, since you're more intelligent than me.
I never said that. I just think it's a dumb comment. You're probably a lot more intelligent than me. I'm not intelligent.
Now listen up. For the price differential, if I get Sam Darnold at 50% discount to Lamar, that leaves me $30 million to use to build up my team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you remember the day of the Chicago Bears? Was Jim McMahon a Lamar Jackson? No.
Can I ask you a question? Has Lamar Jackson and the money he's taken, has that held back the Baltimore Ravens this year?
That's a question you'd have to ask.
The answer is no. The answer is no. The Baltimore Ravens are still playing. Sam Darnold has a really damn good team. He is a much better wide receiver than any wide receiver that Lamar Jackson has. So, no, the Lamar Jackson contract has not hurt the Baltimore Ravens. And just to further say something, you're telling me Lamar Jackson's had 166 career passing touchdowns and 49 interceptions. Lamar Jackson's also had 33 rushing touchdowns. You'd rather pass that up because it's going to cost you more than Sam Darnold, who has been in the league since 2018 and has had 98 touchdowns to 68 interceptions and only 14 rushing touchdowns. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, but you know what? You know what they say about statistics, and that's what you're using.
Okay.
Statistics can be very deceiving. What kind of teams does Sam Darnold play for versus Lamar Jackson? Like, really? You got to look at that.
Well, how about the team this year in Minnesota? It's a pretty damn good one.
That's right. That's why he's 14-2.
Mm-hmm. Name me a wide receiver that Lamar Jackson's had in his career that has blown you away, just wondering. Name me one. I'll wait.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, because you can't. You can't, Tony. I can't listen to you anymore. I just can't. You know, is that Colin Cowherd, for crying out loud? Who I guess, and I'm not even going after Colin here, he had to take that he'd rather have Sam Darnold and Lamar Jackson before the game last night. And you call me today. And you tell me that you would rather have Sam Darnold because it costs you nothing over Lamar Jackson. If that's what we're doing, folks, just say you hate Lamar Jackson, all right? Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP. Lamar Jackson, yes, has not played well in the postseason for most of his career. But how many teams right now, if you told them you could take Sam Darnold at X amount of dollars, which is significantly cheaper, or pay the money to Lamar Jackson, if any GM said, oh, they're going to make the case for Sam Darnold over Lamar Jackson, they should not only lose their job, they shouldn't be allowed to be a GM in this league. I'm not usually speechless. I'm at a loss for words. I really am. How that could be a take. And then when I give you the stats, you go, all right, use a Zach Gelb line, a Bill Belichick line. Stats are for losers. Get your eyes checked. That's all I'll say. Get your damn eyes checked. Because I don't know how you could watch Sam Darnold, even with what he's done this season, and tell me that you believe, and this is Sam Darnold's best work. You know, forget that he was pretty much a backup quarterback the last few years. And you tell me that you'd rather have Sam Darnold than Lamar Jackson. Quarterbacks are expensive, folks. There's the hot take of the day. Quarterbacks are expensive. Very expensive. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are overpaid. Lamar Jackson isn't one of them. And I'm not even saying he's going to win the game this weekend up against Buffalo. But if your premise is going to be that Lamar, because he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet, is why you'd rather pay Sam Darnold, then you can't tell me when I ask you about Josh Allen, you go, oh no, but I'd rather have Josh Allen. Sam Darnold and Lamar Jackson got in the league the same year. If you've watched football the way that I've watched football since 2018, and you tell me in the year of 2025 that you'd rather have Sam Darnold over Lamar Jackson because he's cheaper, whew, that's a take. That's a spicy take. And I know. That's the dumbest take I think I've ever heard from a caller doing this show. So, geez Louise. I'm going to use a word here. I'm flabbergasted by that. I really am. We'll talk about Coach Prime when we come on back. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We're just to clarify, the talk show host, Zach Gelb, did not say he'd rather have Sam Darnold over Lamar Jackson. That was a caller. Just letting you know. That was not a take from the USA, I could tell you that. That's only a take that was brewing from Toronto. Maybe they thought Sam Darnold was a hockey player. Or maybe they thought Sam Darnold was a CFL quarterback. He may be after last night. Let's get the latest update in. Whew. It's a Tuesday. After that phone call, it feels like I've been in here already 4 days this week. All righty, let's get to ACK.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
How about a riddle sponsored by Progressive Insurance? What do your home and auto have in common? Progressive protects them both. It was an easy riddle. Learn more at progressive.com. Mike McCarthy jumped into this year's pool of coaching candidates and is quickly a popular one, set to meet with the Bears tomorrow, just hours after he's free to begin talking with teams. He's also on the Saints' radar as well. The Cavaliers look to bounce back from a rare loss. The NBA's best team fell over the weekend for just the fifth time this year. We'll try to get back on the right track tonight against the Pacers. Indy has won its last 6. The Thunder have been the best in the West with 32 wins and 17 of the last 18. It will take on the Sixers in Philly, while the Sacramento Kings might not be in the same class, but it seems as if they have been lately. They're in Milwaukee tonight after dropping their first game under interim head coach Doug Christie. They've won 7 straight, and De'Aaron Fox said the coaching change has definitely provided a spark.
He's bringing a type of energy that's a little bit contagious. I mean, like I said before, like he's the same guy that he was, but like whenever you're at the front of the helm, I feel like you're probably feeling it a little more. But we got a good thing going right now, so you want to continue to play at a high level.
And top-ranked Auburn will meet Mississippi State tonight after taking over the top spot in the polls. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD veterans, and their families and members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's player is actually our drop button on the call screener, because I thought I made a good defensive play on dropping the call that we just had that said that he would rather have Sam Darnold over Lamar Jackson. And the year of 2025 on this January 14th. All kidding aside, the Defensive Player of the Week is actually Texans cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. In Saturday's win over the Chargers, Stingley picked off Justin Herbert twice and also forced a fumble. The former number 3 overall pick now has 14 career interceptions. I don't know, Stu. I don't think I was harsh. The caller said I was harsh with Sam Darnold. The only thing I really said in the opening segment, and I have fun with the seeing ghost and the getting mono stuff, it's tongue-in-cheek. I have no reason to despise Sam Darnold. But the point of the first segment was, I think the last 2 weeks displayed why you don't pay Sam Darnold and why you go to J.J. McCarthy, who I still don't know what J.J. McCarthy's going to be as an NFL quarterback. So to hear that, and then to call in this show, which, call in, we appreciate it, 855-212-4227, and your take would be, Sam Darnold, you rather have him at, let's say, $35 million than paying Lamar Jackson nearly $60 million a year. That's one I just can't understand how someone's brain works to be able to say those words into a phone. And not only say it, right? Because you could call into a radio show, prank the radio host, but eventually we could smell out the prank, right? We could sniff through it, and there's not substance there. And you know that you're just trying to get a reaction. That caller was dead serious about Sam Darnold over Lamar Jackson.
100% serious.
Jeez.
I mean, I don't know, Zach. If the Chiefs can get Patrick Mahomes, get Derek Carr for the league minimum, maybe they should take him instead of Mahomes. That's the same thinking, no?
I could actually see the pain in your face when you have to even jokingly say something like that. I got a tweet from Psych Mampter. Moist Mike ISD is the Twitter handle. I'd rather have Stu Kovacs as my quarterback than Sam Darnold. Stu is a much cheaper cap hit.
Confirmed.
All righty, let's get into this Coach Prime stuff. I'm not going to call it nonsense. I almost said nonsense. But this is the Dallas Cowboys playbook right here. You get rid of Mike McCarthy. It reminds me a lot when they elected to move on from Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett's contract was coming to an end. They still allowed him to be the head coach until the final day of that contract. It was up against the Seattle Seahawks and the Eagles. Were actually in a playoff game. And that's when they wanted to overtake that. I think it was a Sunday. They wanted to overtake that Sunday, whenever the game was, and they wanted to be in the news. So last week, Mike McCarthy gets an interview request from the Chicago Bears. And the Cowboys say, no, thank you. We don't want you to be able to interview our coach, Mike McCarthy. Now, when that happened, to a lot of people, it gave off the impression that that was the sign that the Cowboys wanted Mike McCarthy back. And maybe the Cowboys did want Mike McCarthy back. I can't confidently say that now with what has transpired. But I remember saying at the time that if I was Mike McCarthy, I would want out of the Cowboys organization. And I would rather be the coach of the Chicago Bears next year than the Dallas Cowboys. Because I could at least see the hope of Caleb Williams, where in Dallas, I'm paying Dak a lot of money, and I think I know what Dak is. I don't believe I could win a Super Bowl or even multiple playoff games with with Dak Prescott. But more so the point was, even though the Bears, I get it, there's a lot of drama in that organization with the McCaskey family, but they're at least trying to win. It may not appear that the Bears are trying to win because they've been so bad at it, but they're at least trying. Jerry Jones doesn't give a rat's ass anymore about winning football games. It's all about how much drama he could stir up. So yesterday, it comes out when the contract was going to expire today that Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys are mutually parting ways. So who said, I want to move on first? That I don't know. But the first two names that surface, Deion Sanders and then Jason Witten. Now, I don't think the Cowboys should hire Jason Witten. I would have to think twice about Deion Sanders. But how about Deion Sanders just acting like every other college coach? I'm not interested in a job, and then slowly it changes to, oh, I'm interested under this parameter, and now there's a lot of ambiguity about what Deion Sanders would do. Coach Prime was adamant last year that he would not take an NFL job. He didn't think the NFL as a head coach was for him. He thought he was better fit. His calling was in college. Then just last week, it was, oh, well, I would take an NFL job, and I can understand this, right, from a human standpoint, if I was able to coach both of my sons in the NFL. And I can't fault him for that. But then this stuff comes out with the Dallas Cowboys, where the Cowboys are not in a position right now to get Shedeur Sanders, and they pay all this money to Dak Prescott. And right away, we find out that Deion Sanders and Jerry Jones have had a conversation about the Cowboys job. So Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, he sends a message to Adam Schefter last night, and he said, quote, to hear from Jerry Jones is truly delightful, and it's intriguing. Deion Sanders told ESPN on Monday night, I love Jerry and believe in Jerry. After you hang up and process it and think about it, it's intriguing. But I love Boulder and everything there is about our team, the coaches, our student body, and the community. That's a no answer. That's playing both sides. That's not, oh, I'm intrigued, I love Boulder, and I'm staying in Boulder. That's, hey, Colorado, you have a contract in front of me. Now, I don't know why he hasn't signed this new contract, this extension. Maybe there's some more things that he wants, but this is clearly a game of negotiations. And can I rule out that Deion Sanders would leave Colorado for the Dallas Cowboys? Heck no. It's not like he's the head coach of Alabama, right? It's not like he's the head coach of Notre Dame. It's not like he's the head coach of Texas. He's the head coach of Colorado. Fun story. Deion Sanders has already exceeded all expectations that people thought he was going to accomplish at Colorado in the last 2 years. Give him credit. He's done a marvelous job. But this idea that Deion Sanders can't become the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys, I can't sit here and say that. Because here's why. It would be such a Jerry Jones hire. Jerry Jones is all about drama. He's all about operating his program as if it's a reality TV show. If you like Coach Prime or not, it's irrelevant. We could all agree that Coach Prime is one of the greatest entertainers ever. When he was a player, and obviously now as a coach. He just registers clicks. That's what he does. And he also registered a bunch of football wins this past year. But there would never be a coach that would fit the Jerry Jones drama game probably more than Coach Prime. And then the other part, Jason Witten, it would kind of, not that Jason Witten is Mr. Drama, but just how obscure that hire was. He's coaching high school football right now. Like, I get it. He was a great tight end, great Dallas Cowboy, horrible broadcaster. But, like, you want to talk to him, fine. But hiring him would just be to get the pop and to get the headline. And you know what I'm going to predict here? This is what I think is going to happen. Because the Dallas Cowboys, what are they? They're all bark, no bite. The Dallas Cowboys, they are all sizzle. They love drama. But what do they usually do in the regular season? What do they usually do in the postseason? They're usually an underwhelming product. So I think Jerry knows what he's doing here. I believe Jerry is throwing out some big names to start. You overtake the game last night a little bit, right? It also wasn't a good game either. But the two conversations from the final wildcard game are what? If you listen to most shows today, what are the two conversations? It's either Sam Darnold didn't play well and what do the Vikings do for their future, or is Coach Prime going to take the Cowboy job or something pertaining to the Cowboy job? So Jerry, to me, has already won, even though his team stunk this year, and I think he should have just kept Mike McCarthy. Jerry Jones has already won based off the standard that he's trying to operate his organization now. It's not about wins, folks. Hasn't been about wins for a long time. There's a reason why the Dallas Cowboys have not made an NFC Championship game since the 1995 season. There's a reason why the Dallas Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl since the 1995 season. Because somewhere along the way, Jerry Jones cared more about the drama than the actual wins. That's just the truth. That's just the truth of this situation. So I think he's throwing out Coach Prime's name. I don't know if Coach Prime will take the job. Coach Prime is clearly somewhat interested. My gut still tells me that Coach Prime will be back at Colorado next year. I'm not going to dismiss Jason Witten, just like I won't dismiss Deion Sanders. I don't get how you could justify, though, hiring with a straight face Jason Witten to be a head coach. And then also, I will say, if you put a gun to my head right now and say, Zach, take a guess. Take a guess. Put a few dollars down on who's going to be the next head coach. I think it's going to be Kellen Moore. And I don't think Kellen Moore would be coveted by any other organization to be their head coach for this upcoming year. A few years ago, yeah. Right? Kellen Moore at one point was a hot name. You know, I know folks in Boise used to not like when I said this, but I said the luster and the appeal of Kellen Moore is totally gone. He's very overrated. Like, don't get me wrong, he's an okay offense coordinator, solid offense coordinator, but he was supposed to be a head coach. And he's jumped around for being offense coordinator. He's never been offered a head coaching job. So Jerry could control Kellen Moore. No other organization would hire Kellen Moore right now to be their head coach. That's kind of why I think Kellen Moore is going to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And it will fall in line of what the Cowboys have been. All hype, all drama, all buzz. But when the decisions and the games are actually played, they have not lived up to the hype. And this search will be drama, big names, fascinating names. You know, wait until you hear. I'll just spitball like a few like Lincoln Riley. Like throw out just some random names, because you also factor in coaching, college coaching, things like that. You know, maybe there'll be a Steve Sarkisian that will throw in there. Could have a bad play call in a playoff game for Dallas too. That would fall in line with Cowboys coaches. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a hire that's like, that's what you're doing? Kellen Moore, who knows the Cowboys organization, has been in the Cowboys organization for a while, even though he is now the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think it's going to be Kellen Moore. But do I think Coach Prime is going to be the next head football coach of the Cowboys? It's a possibility. But I still think he's going to be back in Boulder next year. All righty, we'll take a break. When we come on back, it is a Tuesday. We'll do a little overreaction, proper reaction when we come on back. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Hour number 2 of our radio program. Thomas Hammock, the head football coach at NIU. He's going to join us coming up 20 minutes from now. We'll try to get a little intel on how he was able to defeat Notre Dame back in week 2, as you do have Notre Dame and Ohio State coming up on Monday in the national championship game. Zack Rosenblatt, who covers the NFL and the Jets for The Athletic, and he's become like a big NFL insider. He will join us at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, and we'll get his thoughts on the coaching search. 6 jobs are open. The Patriots are already filled, so there are 7 technically that were open. Patriots filled, 6 still remain, as the Dallas Cowboys did enter the conversation yesterday. And, you know, maybe we'll do this tomorrow. How do you rank those jobs? We've already done that. And right, I said I thought the Jaguars was very attractive. Then after that, I thought the Patriots. That would be 1 and 2, and then the Bears were 3, and I think I put the Jets 4, Raiders 5, and then the Saints 6. Now that's the way that I kind of ranked them. Where the heck would I put the Dallas Cowboys? You're paying the quarterback all that money. The quarterback's just good, not great. He's not on the verge of becoming elite. You have Micah Parsons. You got to pay him. You have CeeDee Lamb, who we know is a great wide receiver in this league, but you got a lot of work to do. And you're now in a division where the Eagles have proven they are a sustained team. They're a very, very good team. They could win the Super Bowl this year. They may be the most complete team in the NFL. And then you also have the come up of the Commanders with the Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels, who's a superstar. And you have to deal with Jerry Jones, who Jerry Jones is doing something that most of the owners would not do, is that Jerry Jones' number one priority is about stirring up drama and making it reality TV. And his priority is not winning football games. So there's a lot, and I mean a lot going on there. And I'll give credit to Mike McCarthy this. And Mike McCarthy had his flaws, right? He did get that team to the postseason for 3 straight years, 12-win seasons, only had 1 playoff game. McCarthy, though, and Dak Prescott, give him credit for this too. Both of those guys, head coach and quarterback, have done a good job in not letting what Jerry Jones does and the act that Jerry Jones puts on to affect them in the way when they talk to the media. Because if you're a sensitive coach, if you are not ready for the moment, if you have not been in this league for a while and you don't know what you're getting into with Jerry Jones, that's when you get like an Adam Gase type of moment at the podium or a Nick Sirianni introductory press conference type of moment at the podium where you don't look ready. Because there's a bleep storm that comes with Jerry Jones. So we'll maybe do that tomorrow. Where do we rank the Cowboys job? That's a fascinating one. Because what's the ceiling of the Cowboys job? You just make the playoffs and then you just basically become a human piñata for Jerry Jones? I guess that's the ceiling. You know, can you get them to an NFC championship game? Well, I haven't. But think about this. I have not seen the Cowboys in an NFC championship game. Now, I was born in 94. I'm 30. I don't remember 1995. I have not seen the Dallas Cowboys in an NFC championship game. Think about that statement if you're a little bit older. Because, right, people that are older, they remember the Cowboys when they were just going to Super Bowls and they were just hanging banners and all that stuff. Think about that from someone who is younger right now, that has been on this earth for 30 years, and I have never seen a moment where I remember where the Dallas Cowboys have been in an NFC championship game. That organization we still know is worth billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. Financially, it's as successful as they come. But on the field, they've been a lot more bad than good. So we got a good rest 2 hours for you. Thomas Hammock at 4:20 p.m. Eastern and Zack Rosenblatt at 5 p.m. Eastern. Okay, it is time to get to a little overreaction, proper reaction on a Tuesday. Just making sure we're not doing onsides, offsides here like last week. Just playing around. Stu, hit it.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
And official, by the way, Tom Allen, the former coach at Indiana, the former defensive coordinator at Penn State, is now going to be the defensive coordinator at Clemson. That was just announced by Clemson. It's been speculated during the last day. All right, let's get to the NFL world. Overreaction, proper reaction. Stuart, what do we got today?
All right, well, the Steelers will be watching the rest of the postseason from their couches despite 5 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown from George Pickens. Now a report says that the troubled receiver was late for the team's Christmas Day game against the Chiefs, arriving nearly an hour after the rest of the team was there. So overreaction or proper reaction, Pickens is more trouble than he's worth.
I'm going to go proper reaction. I I think he's a heck of a wide receiver, but you got to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I understand that the quarterback play has not been up to par in Pittsburgh, but when you're late and you're constantly bitching and you're not a top 10 receiver in the league, like he's a very good wide receiver, but anytime something doesn't go his way, he becomes a problem. And I think his frustration comes from a good place, but it's too off the map for me. All you've done in this league, you had 1 year. You had 1,100 receiving yards. That was in 2023. Like 3 years into your career, you have 2,841 yards and 12 touchdowns. We have seen other receivers come into the league and have a bigger impact. I get it. You're a really good wide receiver. I'm not knocking his play, but I could get a really, really good wide receiver, and I get it. He has significant upside. That is a better teammate. George Pickens, I'm not expecting all wide receivers to behave perfectly and never get upset when they don't get the ball, and sometimes he's right. But there's too much drama with George Pickens for me. So when you ask me, Pickens is more trouble than he's worth, yeah, I think that's proper reaction. Next question.
All right, as we've been discussing, all eyes will be on Sam Darnold's future after his Vikings, of course, lost last night. But the team has a slew of other key free agents, safeties Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum, defensive back Stephon Gilmore and Byron Murphy, running back Aaron Jones, and tackle Cam Robinson are all free agents as well. Overreaction or proper reaction, assuming J.J. McCarthy is the starting quarterback, he will be stepping into a terrible situation.
I think that's an overreaction. There's some of those players that you would like to come back. A lot of those players, though, are older players. But you still have Justin Jefferson. You still have Jordan Addison. TJ Hawkinson, I believe, is still under contract. And you still have the play-calling abilities of one Kevin O'Connell. And who knows? We'll see if Brian Flores is going to be back or not. There's a chance to get a head coaching job. But if he is back, he's the defensive coordinator. He's done a good job with that Minnesota defense. So overall, I've seen a lot of other quarterbacks walk into way worse situations. That's still a really, really, really good situation in Minnesota. And you know what? It kind of meshes well with the first question. You asked me about George Pickens. Look at Justin Jefferson, who's accomplished a lot more in this league and is the best wide receiver in football. How many problems he caused? I can't remember a time that Justin Jefferson has caused a big-time problem in Minnesota. And it's not as if he's had the greatest quarterbacks either. I know he's had Kirk Cousins. Last year, he didn't really have a quarterback. This year, Sam Darnold was more good than bad, but the last two games were a disaster. Maybe wide receiver should act more like Justin Jefferson. But you say, assuming J.J. McCarthy's QB was stepping into a terrible situation? Absolutely not. That's an overreaction.
All right, a video went viral of an Eagles fan berating a female Packers fan during Philly's win on Sunday, including using the C word multiple times. Now, internet sleuths have named the rowdy fan. The Eagles have banned him for life, and his company announced that they will investigate the matter and levy appropriate punishment. Overreaction or proper reaction, losing his job and being banned for life is too harsh a penalty for what the fan said.
Yeah, so he's banned for life from Lincoln Financial Field, and he's lost his job. I think that when you ask me, losing his job and being banned for life is too harsh of a penalty for what the fan said. Too harsh? No, I think that's an overreaction. Like, I'm not a huge, hey, someone makes a mistake, you have to tear them down and cancel culture and all that. That's not me. But if you show up to a football game, and I don't know if he was provoked or not, but the video that I saw, he was going after a woman and he said you're an ugly C word multiple times. Like, what wild animal are you? That's something that I don't understand. I'm a huge sports fan. When you go to a sports building, the behavior that you see is deplorable. Absolutely deplorable. And I understand alcohol plays a factor into it, but when you run up to someone or yell at someone and you're a guy, a grown man, and you're yelling at a woman, you're just a clown. So you went viral for the wrong reason, and now there's a great reaction to it, and people are just disgusted by your actions. So if your employer wants to move on, and if the Eagles say, we don't want you back at Lincoln Financial Field, tough bleep. Don't act like a jackass. Next question.
Speaking of the Eagles, the Rams, they moved on to the divisional round and will travel to Philly to take on the Eagles. Jalen Hurts struggled in their win on Sunday against the Packers, while 36-year-old Matthew Stafford was on point last night, completing 70% of his passes for 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 turnovers. overreaction or proper reaction, you have more confidence in Stafford than you do in Hurts this weekend.
Yeah, it doesn't mean the Rams are going to win the game, but Matthew Stafford's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Jalen Hurts, he was not impressive last week, and his defense was the reason why they won the game. Now, he also missed the last 3 games because of the concussion that he suffered 3 games ago up against the Commanders. So he was rusty. Do I think we'll see a much better version of Jalen Hurts this week? Absolutely. But I have more confidence in Matthew Stafford than I do Jalen Hurts heading into this weekend. So I think that is a proper reaction.
All right, last one. Bill Belichick has already landed some big talent on the recruiting trail and in the transfer portal for UNC. However, our friend Jordan Schultz reports that Belichick would have been interested in the Cowboys job, but he was told that the job would likely not be open. Another report by Mike Florio says that Belichick still hasn't filled out his staff, making Tar Heel and ACC brass worried that he may jump ship just a month after being hired. Overreaction or proper reaction, you believe Belichick is a serious candidate for the Cowboys in 2025.
Now, I did see that they brought over a defensive staff member from the Washington staff that worked under Steve Belichick, who's now with UNC. So we'll see what the rest of the staff is. Do I believe that Belichick is a serious candidate for the Cowboys job in 2025? It's ironic because I said 2 years ago, right, when Belichick was in the final stages now, that's in the 2-year category in New England, that I predicted that he'd be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys eventually. But I don't think that's in play here. I know it's not beneath Bill to take a job and then scribble on a piece of paper, I resign as the HC of wherever. I understand his history of what happened over 20-something years ago. I'm not saying he's going to last long at UNC. I'm not saying that a year from now he wouldn't take an NFL job. But right now, do I think he's leaving UNC to be the coach of the Cowboys? I do not. But if that report is true, part of the report, that Jordan Schultz said he was told that Bill had interest, but the Cowboys told him that it would not likely be open, it gives even more merit to my theory that maybe this was Mike McCarthy, even though this was presented to us as a mutual parting of ways, but how many times something mutually agreed upon and it's not really mutually agreed upon. And maybe the Cowboys' preference was to bring Mike back, but they wanted to do it on specific terms because remember, his contract was up anyway, and maybe Mike just looked at this and said, what are you going to give me, a 2-year contract extension? You know, I could do better than that. I could go somewhere else and get a brand new 5-year deal. So I still believe that if we sat down Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy in the same room and we got to hear their conversation on who said, I don't want to return first or we don't want you anymore, I think it was more so Mike than it was Jerry Jones. And now it's just presented to swing the public perception. But you believe Belichick is a serious candidate for the Cowboys in 2025? I do not. So I'm going to go there, overreaction. All right, a little overreaction, proper reaction. On a Tuesday, we will take a timeout. We are gearing up for the national championship game that comes your way on Monday. We'll be doing our show live on Monday in Atlanta from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 p.m. Pacific, as we'll get you all the coverage live from the national championship game. But when we come on back, only one man this year has been a coach for a team that has defeated Notre Dame. His name is Thomas Hammock. You know him. He's the head football coach at NIU. He has been on this show before. And his team won a bowl game this year, and he had a very viral moment after winning that bowl game, too. So we will talk a little NIU football. We'll also talk about what it takes to beat Notre Dame with Thomas Hammock when we come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, Zach Gelb Show right here, Infinity Sports Network. We're gearing up for the national championship game that comes your way on Monday evening in Atlanta, Georgia, and that will feature the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Only one man this year has given actually a loss to Marcus Freeman, and that's the head football coach at Northern Illinois. And that, of course, is Coach Thomas Hammock, who back on September 7th had a 16-14 huge victory up against the Fighting Irish in South Bend. Northern Illinois finished their season 8-5, and Coach Hammock is kind enough to join us once again right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Coach, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for it. How you been?
Hey, I've been good. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. So take me back to September 7th. You guys walk into South Bend. You pull off that thrilling 2-point victory, 16-14. All these months later, what's still the memory, and how do you kind of explain how your team was able to do that day?
Well, the biggest memory is how hard our guys played. They wasn't affected by the environment or the team. They went out there and played the team in front of them and competed as hard as they can compete for 4 quarters. And we were able to come out with a victory. And you look at that game, 4 months later and say how Notre Dame is playing, how the season has progressed. At that time and on that particular day, we found a way to be the better team.
Are you surprised at what Notre Dame has done since then? That they haven't lost, and now if they win on Monday night, they'll be national champions.
I'm not surprised from a talent standpoint. I'm surprised with all the adversity that they've had to deal with over the season, with injuries. The team that they're playing now is a lot different than the team that we played on September 7th. And for them to continue to play good football week in and week out, I think that speaks volumes to Coach Freeman, his staff, and the players. They've been able to connect and bond and find a way to overcome, despite the injuries, despite that loss on week 2. And what a great opportunity and what an embodiment of the game of football. Guys coming together, believing in one another, and getting the job done.
Thomas Hammock here with us, the head football coach at NIU. I remember hearing the story and talking about it with you that after that game, you actually reached out to Marcus Freeman and said, hey, let's connect. There's some things that I saw that could actually help you maybe the rest of the way. Usually you don't hear a coach do that, especially in season. Why did you elect to do that after what was such a monumental victory for not only you, but your program?
Well, I think, first of all, I think that happens all the time, whether it's head coach to head coach or assistant coach to assistant coach. The thing that struck me was how Coach Freeman embraced me before the game, after the game, and how much respect he showed to me. Because obviously the head coach at Notre Dame carry a lot of prestige. And for him to treat me as a peer before the game and after the game, I wanted to, give back and give him an opportunity to, reach the levels that he wanted to reach based on what we saw. So I'm not, sure how much it affected their season or the different outcomes. I think that's really a testament of his leadership, but definitely wanted to at least help him out, given the way that he treated me, because there was no reason for him to treat me with the amount of respect that he did.
What did you tell him? If you give us basically like a general gist, what was part of the conversation?
Well, I think anytime, you talk to coaches, is sometimes tendencies of what you saw, different looks of what you saw. Obviously, they was breaking in a new coordinator and a new quarterback. And so for us, we felt like they had to put everything into that Texas A&M game the week before. And so a lot of things, kind of carried over. We studied a lot of LSU film going into that particular game. And then tendencies from the first game we were able to see. And defensively, they have a phenomenal defense. And so we had a couple things from an alignment standpoint, things that they were giving away, whether it was a blitz or different line stunts that we tried to at least talk about, when I had a chance to speak to them.
Yeah, and you look at Notre Dame's season, right? They've made a lot of plays on special teams. They did up against your football team, and their defense is one of the best in the country, is led by Xavier Watts. The question was always going to be with Notre Dame on the offensive side of the ball, what were they going to turn into? They have two really good running backs. Jeremiah Love could be a Heisman Trophy candidate next year, but it's always a question on the quarterback, and they were bringing in Riley Leonard, who had a lot of football played at Duke, in and out of the lineup. But at that point, it was only his second start at Notre Dame. How have you kind of seen from afar, with maybe watching some of these college football playoff games, how Riley Leonard was able to grow throughout the season from the quarterback that you saw?
Yeah, I think, the first week they played Texas A&M, offensively, it was whatever it takes to win the game. I think going into our game, they tried to feature the pass a little bit more. And we have excellent corners. We're excellent in defensive pass game structure, and so that wasn't going to be a good recipe. Obviously, they got two tremendous running backs and a quarterback that can affect you in the quarterback run game, but they chose to pass a little bit more, and I thought that was to our benefit.
Yeah, and we know Ohio State, they have a tremendous amount of playmakers on that defensive side of the ball. I'm fascinated to see that speed and how much that Notre Dame just likes to line it up and run, whether it's from their running backs or from their quarterback, is going to face off up against what is an excellent defense that was on full display up against Texas, as you saw Ohio State make that big play towards the goal line.
Well, I think it's certainly a matchup of strength versus strength. Notre Dame's ability to run the football, to add the quarterback in the run game, control the clock, try to control the line of scrimmage. You have to figure out a way to keep Ohio State's offense off the field because they are dynamic and explosive. So I think it's going to be a tremendous game. I think stylistically, it's two different type of opponents, and I'm anxious to watch the game.
Yeah, and also, I'm sure you could appreciate this from a coaching standpoint, and you've seen a lot of great players. And for the last few years, all we did when we talked about Ohio State with their wide receiving room was talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. and how sensational of a pro he was going to be. Now the conversation's all about Jeremiah Smith, and I didn't think I'd be able to say that Jeremiah Smith's better than Marvin Harrison Jr., but what he's been able to do in his freshman season, holy smokes, Coach, that's a real special player.
It's unbelievable. When you watch him, he doesn't look as fast as he's playing, but he has to be extremely fast because he's getting behind defenders. He's taking short completions and making them touchdowns. To me, that's going to be the matchup of the game. Notre Dame loves to play man coverage, and to play man coverage on some of those receivers that Ohio State has, to me, is going to determine who wins the game.
Talking to Coach Thomas Hammock, for your team to do what they did back in week 2, that's the way that people are going to remember this squad. But you had a lot of football after that. You finished the year off 8-5. You win a bowl game. Just how do you kind of look back at your season, and how would you describe the type of year that your program had?
Well, obviously, beating Notre Dame was the biggest win in program history. And then we have to fight for consistency. And so we play some one-possession games and turn the ball over in some of those games. We play cleaner from a turnover margin perspective. I think our season would have been drastically different and drastically more improved. But for us, this is a learning experience, right? You win a big game like that. How do you carry that momentum throughout the season? And I'm excited about the foundation that we have, the players in the program, that we can learn from all these experiences we dealt with this year and be better next year. And also, Coach, you gave one of the best interviews ever after you were able to win the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. And you talked about when they were dumping all those fries on you, and you said it was the best dump of your career. That was an all-time moment on social media, if I may say so. Yes, they conveniently deleted out the question that she posed to me. Her question was, how was it being dumped with those French fries? And obviously, I proceeded to say that was the best dump of my career. Which, when you cut it out in those terms, right? That obviously goes viral. But that was a tremendous game. Tremendous atmosphere. The Idaho Bowl does a fantastic job, and to have those French fries dumped on you, I would certainly like to have that again. Were you more recognized for beating Notre Dame or for saying what you said after the bowl game? Just wondering. Well, I definitely think Notre Dame, the emotion of that game, but certainly this Idaho Bowl has taken on a life of its own. It's got to be cool, though, because I don't usually think about it this way, but I'm sure you'll tune in Monday night and watch the national championship game. They like to recap both those teams' season. Your program's going to be mentioned a lot, I would have to imagine, on Monday night. No, it has given us tremendous recruiting momentum. When they talk about your team in comparison to Notre Dame, there's a lot of kids interested in having those type of opportunities to be on that type of stage and win those type of games. So, we've had a lot of recruiting momentum, from that game, and hopefully we can build upon the season that we had, winning 2 bowl games in a row. We won a championship in 21, and put it all together in the 2025 season. Now, before we let you run, Coach Thomas Hammock, you talked about the leadership that Marcus Freeman has displayed after losing to your program, the conversation, and even the respect he showed you before the game and then afterwards, and they haven't lost the game since. On the other side, right, you want to talk about overcoming adversity. That's the theme to me heading into this national championship game, because a little over a month ago, everyone was laughing at Ohio State. Oh, they lost to Michigan 4 years in a row. And since then, we have seen a team that we all knew was really good and had a lot of potential really come together and rally together. Now they're 60 minutes away from winning it all. How about the leadership and what you've seen from afar with Ohio State and what they've been able to do through adversity? Yeah, to me, as a football coach, you always look for those moments of coaches dealing with adversity and overcoming. Some of the criticism that Ryan Day gets as a head coach is completely unfair, in my opinion. I think his winning percentage is probably one of the best in the country. And just because he hasn't beat Michigan does not mean take away from what he's built that program to be. That program is a juggernaut. They can play with anybody in the country. Obviously, I'm rooting for Notre Dame because we played them, but I wouldn't be mad either way with the outcome because I think Ryan Day is a tremendous coach, and what a perfect way to say, you know what, I guess I'm not that bad of a coach anyway by winning a national championship. So, I know he's dealing with a lot of different pressures at Ohio State, but I think that's unfair to him. I think he's built a phenomenal program, one that a lot of people are trying to emulate and can only hope for a fraction of the success that he's having.
If Ryan Day hit you up and said, Coach, you're the only one that's been able to beat these guys this year, what advice would you give me? What would you say to him?
I would say, you know what, you have a lot of film over the course of the season to watch Notre Dame. And if you can't figure it out with, 14, 15 games of information, then you don't deserve to win.
I sense you want to be the only coach in the country to hand the national champion a loss this year, right? That's what I sense.
I think that would go down in history.
That'd be pretty cool. Hey, by the way, I have to apologize. As a Met fan, my team took Juan Soto from your Yankees. I remember you being a big Yankee fan, right?
Hey, listen, you know what? I would tell anybody, that has young kids, get them to play baseball. The amount of money that they paying these guys in baseball, I mean, it's almost unheard of. So that one hurt a little bit. I was hoping the Yankees, win the World Series. We fell a little bit short, but there's always next year. But that guy's going to be hard to replace.
Well, Coach, best of luck moving forward. Really appreciate your time throughout the season, and thanks for doing this.
Thank you, and go Huskies.
You got it. There he is, the head football coach at NIU, Coach Thomas Hammock. Always enjoy when he jumps on board with us right here on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We'll get to a news brief next. Update time first. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, the Lions will host the Commanders in the extra time by virtue of the first-round bye. Seems to be paying off as they could have two big additions with both David Montgomery and Terrion Arnold full practice participants. Montgomery has been dealing with a knee injury that caused him to miss the final 3 games. Arnold has been sidelined with a foot injury. Former Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy is free to speak with anyone after midnight tonight. First up will be the Bears tomorrow. Chicago had previously asked for permission to speak with McCarthy. That request had been denied by Dallas. No permission necessary any longer. The Cavaliers have been the NBA's best team at 33-5 and host the Pacers tonight. Cleveland saw its 12-game winning streak come to an end over the weekend. Head coach Kenny Atkinson said their defense let them down.
Just disappointed our defensive mindset in that third quarter, and really the whole second half. I think they had a 134 offensive rating in the second half. So I don't think we can just blame this one on missed shots, although that was a part of it.
The Pacers come in riding a 6-game winning streak, and also the surging Kings under Doug Christie look to make it 8 in a row tonight in Milwaukee. College action, Auburn hosts Mississippi State. The Tigers took over the top spot in the latest poll, but will not have Janai Broome tonight. I'm Rich Hacker.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
This portion of the program is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes up to $2 million in coverage and no medical exam, just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. So I'm going to say a name right now. And Stu, I'm going to ask you if you remember this name. So sometimes there is a person that gets mentioned that we've never really heard of or is more so insignificant in our lives, and they get mentioned and it becomes a big story for a few days, 2 days, and then out of sight, out of mind, and you never talk about that person, I don't want to say again, but for a while. If I give you this name, Stu, I want to see if you can remember this person, because it was at one point a major talking point in the college football season. Do you remember the name Matthew Sluka?
Yes, I do.
Who is he?
He is the UNLV quarterback that decided to transfer basically midseason.
Yep. So he left, threw his name in the portal, said he's not playing because the way that the story did go, I still don't know what was true. And UNLV, by the way, the new head football coach there is Dan Mullen, if you remember. But with UNLV and last time that with the things that did happen there, you had this quarterback Matthew Sluka who was not getting what he was promised, so he jumped into the portal and he said, "I'm leaving." Now, I remember at the time, the Holy Cross coach, he came out and he was, he's the coach now at James Madison, but he was Sluka's coach at Holy Cross, Bob Chesney. He came out and he was like the only person that defended Matthew Sluka during all of that. Now, I remember my take was, I don't like leaving, but if you were guaranteed money and you didn't get that money, it's a rotten system. You may not love the decision, but I can't say I wouldn't do the other thing, like leave. Like, for example, if, let's just say, the way that we got paid, it was NIL money, and the company told me they were going to pay me X amount of dollars, and I never got any payments, and I was here for a month and a half, I'd be like, all righty, thanks, but no thanks, I'm out. I'm done, because you got to get compensated. So it has come down today that Matthew Sluka has made his decision on his future, and he is going to James Madison. That is where he's transferring to reunite with his old coach at Holy Cross, who was the only person that defended him during that whole time with what happened this past year. Now, I think a lot of people, Stu, they're going to see this, and they're going to go, and James Madison's been a good program, but they're going to say, you left UNLV, who got to their conference championship game, even without you, and they ended up losing to Boise State. And I think a lot of people are going to say, you left that to go play another year, and all you're doing is going to James Madison. Now, I don't know how much he's getting paid. I'm sure he's getting a nice deal for name, image, and likeness. Not a crazy deal, but a nice amount of deal. But I wonder how many people are going to remember the connection on why, and it will get written in all these articles. But you know how it is. It just gets aggregated now, and you see like one headline, former UNLV starting quarterback Matthew Sluka is transferring to James Madison. And I do believe that there's going to be a bunch of people, Stu, that are going to see that and they go, you left UNLV to only go to James Madison? I think there's going to be a good overwhelming majority of people aren't going to be able to remember that, the coach at James Madison used to be his coach at Holy Cross.
I didn't remember that. I remember Sluka, but I remember the coach that defended him, but I didn't know the connection that he's now at JMU.
Yeah, I saw this during the break, and I go, hold on, he's going to James Madison. I go, why am I not surprised by this? I'm trying to remember why. And then I go, I remember the James Madison coach defending him, and I go, all right, let me look, Bob Chesney here, he was his coach at Holy Cross, and that's when it was, okay, I knew it was in the right ballpark somewhere, that there was some connection here with the head football coach at James Madison. All righty, without further ado, I'm not talking about Freddie Adu. It's time to update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. Let's get to a news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Okay. I'm going to start you off with a very long clip. It's almost 2 minutes. This is Nick Sirianni on the WIP morning show. He was talking about A.J. Brown reading a book on the sideline. Now, let me just remind a lot of people. Earlier in the year, in September, if you would have told me that Nick Sirianni would have the Eagles in the Super Bowl or potentially be in the Super Bowl, I would not have believed that, just because some of those early season losses that the Eagles had and how clueless he sounded. This was before I even heard this clip from the WIP morning show. But the Nick Sirianni that I just even saw going back a few weeks ago when I was in that locker room up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in a victory seemed like a completely different Nick Sirianni, and he seemed completely buttoned up and playoff mode, and he's ready to go in just his post-game press conference after the victory to open things up against the Green Bay Packers, where you didn't know what you were going to ask for some of the drama that happened in this one. Now, it hasn't always been perfect for Nick Sirianni, but the Eagles are one of 4 teams that are remaining in the NFC that has a chance to go represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. But here was Nick Sirianni getting an opportunity to respond to everything that's going on with A.J. Brown on the sideline on WIP earlier this AM.
No, I'm definitely okay with it. Everybody has their the crazy thing is it's been happening for, he's been reading this book on the sideline for a long time. It just so happened that a camera saw it this week and kind of, I don't know if made a big deal about it or not, but everybody has their own way. We talk so much about dog mentality, playing the next play, focusing your mind on what you're about to do so you can play with great effort and great detail. And some guys pray, in between. Some guys meditate in between. Some guys, AJ reads in between. Whatever these guys need to do to put their mind in a place where they can play with great detail and great effort, I fully encourage them to do that. And I love AJ. He's such a good teammate. I saw Jahan Dotson said something like defending AJ, and I thought that was awesome too. Just another opportunity, another example of our teammates defending each other, that we don't do any research to figure out how long he's been doing it, why he's doing it, what he's reading. I mean, he's not reading a romance novel on the sideline. And we jump to a conclusion of, he must be disgruntled. That to me is lazy, and everyone needs to figure out why he's doing it before they jump to judgment on the man, because the man, A.J. Brown, is a great person. The man, A.J. Brown, is the best receiver that, and I'll say it without hesitation, is the best receiver that this city's ever seen. The man, A.J. Brown, is one of the best teammates that in the world to his guys. Not just the best receiver, one of the best teammates. This guy is top notch, and it's hard for me to watch when people are getting on him without doing the proper research of who the man is and what he's doing in the first place.
Stu, this is the first time I think I could say this season. I think Nick Sirianni is in control. Nick Sirianni, to me, in the last month, I think we've seen him grown up. Where I'm not saying there still can't be a petulant moment on the sideline or a boneheaded play call. I'm not ready to go there. But I think in the last month, we have seen a somewhat different Nick Sirianni. And I felt that in the post-game press conference on Sunday when I was there, and especially in that answer on WIP. And it's kind of impressive because last year he was a doormat and his players walked all over him, and that team was 10-1 and they were a disaster down the stretch. And they have not only been able to recover, and the job's still not done yet, you still have to win a Super Bowl and get to a Super Bowl. But Nick Sirianni, there was questions early on this season, and I doubted him if he was going to be able to survive, if he was going to be able to be the right guy for the job. The Nick Sirianni that I've seen the last month, I do feel is different. And I have more confidence, and I didn't have a lot of confidence heading into this year. And I thought they should have got Belichick, they should have got Harbaugh, they should have got Vrabel, Pete Carroll, whoever. I have more confidence than I've ever had with Nick Sirianni. Now, it doesn't mean the Eagles will win a Super Bowl, but I'm just starting to hear Nick Sirianni sound slightly different and a little bit more buttoned up. And I think he's pressing the right buttons this year, which he failed to do so last year. So that's my take on Nick Sirianni right now. Things I did not expect to say about a month ago. Alrighty, let's go to Taylor Wan. He has a message to Pats fans and players and what they're getting in their new head football coach, who is obviously a familiar name in Mike Vrabel, 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Patriots. But Taylor Wan played under Mike Vrabel with Tennessee.
New England Patriots fans, you have a lot to be excited about. Got Mike Vrabel in the building. Culture is going to be incredible. If you're a player, come here. You need to keep your head on this football, okay? You need to understand that this is about to be really hard for a little bit. And it's going to be okay. But just know, you're about to go in hell for a little bit. You're going to be sitting there in the locker room. You're getting small groups. Who the is this guy? Why is he talking to us like this? Who does he think he is? Yeah, he played in the league, whatever. By the way, in that first team, he's going to tell you how many years he played in the league. And he's going to reference it forever. Not a bad thing. Boys, I'm telling you, it's going to work out. I was a part of it. I was in those small little groups at first, and then you start to get away from it. Like, yo, this dude knows what the he's talking about. It's going to work out. I swear to God, it's going to get tough at times. And he can be nasty. But boys, you're going to win some games now. Good luck, Patriots. Good luck.
The best thing I heard from Mike Vrabel's press conference the other day was that they're not going to have entitled players, because there was a lot of entitled players on the Patriots team last year. And Mike Vrabel means business, and I do believe in him as an ex-head football coach of the Patriots. He's the guy that I wanted last year to be coaching this football team. Adam Schefter, Shefty on ESPN, he did acknowledge that the Cowboys did speak to Coach Prime Deion Sanders.
I have spoken with, amongst other candidates, Deion Sanders. There is a mutual interest there. And I go back to about a year and a half ago when I had a former general manager say to me, watch Deion Sanders. There's a real possibility he may be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, there is mutual interest. We'll see if that amps up. But the two sides have talked. They have touched base. And we'll see if it goes anywhere. But clearly, Deion Sanders is somebody that Jerry Jones knows. There's great respect and admiration between the two men. And we'll see if those talks materialize into anything further.
You knew that Jerry was going to reach out. Now, Deion was kind of playing both ways. Oh, it's humbling to get a call. Oh, it's intriguing to get a call. But I love Boulder, Colorado. Would Jerry want to hire him? I think Jerry would be very interested in hiring him because Jerry cares more about drama than winning football games, even though Deion Sanders did win football games last year more than people thought he would at Colorado. However, do I think right now Deion Sanders is going to be the next coach of the Cowboys? I do not. My guess is going to be Kellen Moore, and there will probably be a rant when the Cowboys, just going to go on a limb here, hire Kellen Moore as their next head football coach. Finally, Adam Schefter on the possibility of Steve Sarkisian jumping ship going from Texas to the NFL.
Steve Sarkisian is a name that has swirled around out there in NFL circles for weeks now. His season's over. If there were a team that wanted to talk to him, they obviously could go do that. And we'll see whether or not he has interest in going back to the NFL. But that's a name that's been out there for a little while, that there will be NFL teams that would have some interest. So we'll see if that actually now happens.
I would say Sark is coaching Texas next year. Do I believe that Sark could be an NFL head coach one day and get an opportunity? I do. I would advise him, though, when it's 2nd and goal on the 1, you don't line your quarterback up at the 6 and then line your running back up 3 yards behind him and then pitch him the football because you were moving in the wrong direction just like he did up against Ohio State. But I feel as if Sark is committed to Texas through Arch Manning. That's the way that I would word it. It would feel a little rotten if after all we've heard is this hype of Arch Manning, and the reason why he went to Texas was because of Sark, and the Manning family loves Sark, and then you bolt and you leave, which he could do. But I envision next year Sark being the head football coach at Texas, and after that, who knows? We'll take a break. Zack Rosenblatt will join us on the other side. Great reporter for The Athletic covering the NFL. We'll go around the coaching carousel with him. We'll get to all the big rumors. Who's going to be coaching the Cowboys? Who's going to be coaching the Jets? And is Ben Johnson off to the Raiders? We'll get all that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
And away we go, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. We go out to the guest line right now and welcome in Zack Rosenblatt. He does a great job as a senior writer for The Athletic, covering the NFL and the Jets. And Zach is kind enough to join us right now. Zach, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. How you been?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing fantastic. So let me start you off with the Cowboys. So last week, right, the Bears, they reach out to Dallas. They want to interview Mike McCarthy. A lot of people, when they heard the news that Dallas rejected that request, thought that that meant that Mike McCarthy was going to come back. When push came to shove here, because I remember saying at the time last week, if I'm Mike McCarthy, it's nice that Dallas is at least giving off this impression that they want you back. I'm not sold if I want to be back as the Cowboys head coach. So who do you kind of think broke up with who first here, even though they said it was mutual yesterday?
It might have been mutual in the way that, like, Mike, from the sounds of it, wanted a longer term contract, and it doesn't seem like Jerry is willing to give him that. So it maybe was mutual in the sense that they both realized they were not going to come to an agreement. But it's felt like McCarthy was teetering on the edge of being on the hot seat for a couple of years now. So it was just the timing is just the weirdest part. Like you removed yourself from having a shot at somebody like a Mike Vrabel or even Belichick. If you like put it out there, you were thinking about getting rid of McCarthy by waiting. And the Cowboys do this constantly. With the contracts, with the coaches. Like I don't know why Jerry thinks he can take his time, but he tends to do that.
Do you think there's any chance that Belichick, and I know what he did to the Jets all those years ago, but he would bolt UNC before coaching a game there to go to an NFL job?
I don't think he'd do that, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jerry calls him. I think that would make a lot. I mean, he called Deion Sanders right away. So Belichick, I really do think if this had happened before Belichick had made a decision, I think he would be the Cowboys coach. But I mean, it'd be pretty wild if he just bailed on UNC already. So
yeah, it would be. Zack Rosenblatt here with us. What do you make? So I look at Deion Sanders. He's done a heck of a job at Colorado. Earlier in the year, he said he's not interested in the NFL. Then he'd be interested only coaching his sons. And then yesterday, he's intrigued, but he loves Colorado. That was the message that he gave Adam Schefter. I'm not surprised that Deion's name is out there because this is what Jerry Jones does. It's all about drama. It's all about getting the headlines. Jason Witten's name was out there as well. But what would you kind of evaluate when you look at the prospects of potentially Coach Prime leaving Colorado to be the coach of the Cowboys this year?
I mean, I always thought if he was going to become an NFL coach, like the minute he took a job at Colorado, like I always thought the NFL was his long-term goal, and the Cowboys just always made the most sense. It's just the most flash, pomp, and circumstance, and that just feeds right into what Jerry really cares about. But on the flip side of that is I don't know that there's a lot of evidence that Deion's a great like X's and O's coach. Like he's clearly like a culture guy, and his players love him. But I'd have a lot of questions about the circus that would come with, and you already do kind of to a degree, but you'd be hearing about the Cowboys every single day on ESPN if he was the one that was that coach.
Yeah, it would really be something. It would be Cowboys coverage on steroids, and it already feels like that's the case right now. When you get to the Cowboys job, I know it just opened up the other day. My first instant reaction was it was going to be Kellen Moore. Would that be something, even though I don't think Kellen Moore would be a head coach anywhere else for this upcoming year but Dallas, but would that make sense to you with those connections?
Yeah. I think there's a degree of the Cowboys job, and Troy Aikman kind of alluded to this when he talked about the Cowboys job yesterday. Like it's not for everybody. It's a job that you have to be willing to work with Jerry and the Jones family, and you have to understand what comes with that. And Kellen Moore knows as well as anyone. He played there. He coached there. Him and McCarthy parted ways ultimately, but I think that he makes a lot of sense if you're looking for a coach that has Cowboys ties and like knows what he's getting into, I think.
What's your feel right now on Ben Johnson? Because a month ago, everyone would say the Bears. Now there was a little bit of a push with Jacksonville. We'll see what happens with the Trent Baalke situation. And then Brady puts lipstick on a pig, job not that attractive, gets rid of Tom Telesco to make that job maybe attractive to Ben Johnson. What would be your best educated guess right now on Ben?
I still lean Raiders right now because of the reasons you just laid out. If he's not getting a quarterback right away, which a lot of these open jobs don't have like a quarterback that you can win with right now. You could argue the Cowboys do with Dak if he's healthy, but how he's going to look after the injury. What does Ben Johnson think of him? I think ultimately Ben and the Raiders will look at it as a situation. They can bring Ben in and he could help pick the GM. He can be a big part of the whole process. I think that's been a reason why he's been so patient. He wants the best situation for himself, whether it's quarterback, front office, all that stuff. So I still think the Raiders, I think Tom has the ability to convince Mark Davis to throw the bag at Ben Johnson. And so that's where I lean right now. But the Cowboys one is definitely interesting. And I do wonder if they take a run at Ben Johnson.
Yeah, it just would seem such an anti-Ben Johnson move. If all we've heard about with him is alignment, the only time I've really seen Jerry Jones kind of step out of the way for a little bit was when they brought in Parcells. I don't think he's doing that for Ben Johnson.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he's been avoiding jobs for the most part. He made it clear he didn't have any interest in the Jets job when this cycle started. Like he's been very picky in terms of ownership, situation, quarterback, all that stuff. So I would have questions about it, but the Cowboys do have a roster that's pretty good right now, have a lot of talent. You have CeeDee Lamb on offense. You have, Dak Prescott, like we said. So there is some appeal to it, and it is the Cowboys. And if you win as the Cowboys coach, then you're as famous as it gets. So if he desires any of that, then yeah, sure, he'll consider it.
So I know your bread and butter is the Jets, even though you cover all the NFL, doing a great job as a senior writer for The Athletic. What's the timeline there? Like, do you expect the GM domino to fall, the coach domino to fall first? Like, what would you say on the timeline with the Jets, at least finding one or the other, coach or GM?
Well, I mean, they started their search earlier than anybody else, and all the other openings have either gone on to like second round of interviews or have hired a head coach in the Patriots. So they seem to be taking their time. They added another coach to a list that already had, I think, 16 names on it. So they're at 17 if you count Mike Vrabel, who went elsewhere, obviously. So I think they're being very meticulous, and hard to blame them to that degree. But it's like a number. They've reached a number on both searches that is like a little astronomical, and you'd want them. I mean, what it says to me is that they haven't necessarily found somebody that like blew their socks off, because you don't keep taking interviews with people if Aaron Glenn is someone who's tied to the Jets, and he still makes a lot of sense. But if he comes in and blows you away in that interview, then I'm not sure that you're requesting 9 other guys or interviewing 9 other guys. So I think they're just waiting to be, I don't know if blown away is the right word, but I think they're waiting for the right fit in both jobs. And if I had my druthers, I'd guess that GM will come first at some point in the next week or so. And then from there, the coach thing. The way they changed the rules with the different dates you can do in person and when you could hire guys who are on playoff teams, it's convoluted the process a little bit, but I do think the GM should get hired relatively soon, I guess.
And then obviously the GM would have a ton of say in who the next coach is going to be. Right now, do you think Aaron Glenn, if you had to put a leader in the clubhouse, would it be Aaron Glenn for the Jets job?
The last couple of days, I've been predicting Brian Flores. And a big reason for that is, like I said, I get the sense that they haven't been blown away in these interviews. I think Aaron Glenn is somebody they really value and like. But I think that they want a coach who's going to come in and have a plan for fixing the culture and getting them back on track and winning. And I think Brian Flores is somebody that is going to walk into that room. He's going to impress them. I know there are obviously a lot of questions about how it ended in Miami, but I think he is a lot of what they need in terms of a culture builder, accountability, all that stuff. So he'd be one that I think if his interview goes well, I could see them really falling for him. But Aaron Glenn and him are like the top contenders in my mind.
Now, the first reaction when you hear Brian Flores, it's like, oh, does that mean Ryan Grigson's going to be the GM of the Jets? So I guess the better question is there a leader in the clubhouse for the Jet GM job, in your opinion?
That I don't have as good of a read on. I think Mike Borgonzi from the Chiefs makes a lot of sense, and he's like a hot candidate. He's going for a second interview with the Titans. I do think Grigson has a shot. I think Alec Halaby from the Eagles is an interesting one. They interviewed John Eric Sullivan from the Packers today. Like, there's some interesting names, but I haven't gotten the sense that any of them has been like, we need this guy. And GM is such an it's way more interesting than head coach, because I think we all kind of assume, okay, just pull a guy from the Chiefs, he's going to be good. But we don't really know like the impact, an assistant GM has in a room, or, what decisions he made or what influence he has. And you don't really find that out until you hire them. So that's kind of the challenge of, sorting through all these GM prospects. But yeah, I think Borgonzi makes the most sense to me as somebody they should be targeting, but I can't say for sure that he's going to be the next GM.
So if it's right what we were talking about earlier, and who knows if it will, that Ben Johnson takes the Raiders job, McCarthy and then even Pete Carroll, I'll throw those two names out there. What do you kind of think their prospects are of getting a job in this cycle?
Yeah, the McCarthy thing really threw a wrench in it, because I even wrote like a thing predicting all the coach openings. I think I published it yesterday. And so, of course, Mike McCarthy's fired later that day, and that probably would have impacted my thing. I had Pete Carroll going to the Bears. I do think Mike McCarthy would have a legit shot at that. And I think the Saints job, McCarthy kind of feels like a Saints coach to me. So I could see that. But I know they also really value Aaron Glenn, and he's probably their top target. So there's like so many moving parts here. It'd be pretty crazy to me if Pete Carroll doesn't land a job. I think maybe he doesn't have interest in the Jets one specifically, but I think he's perfect for what they need. I know he's a little older, but in terms of culture builder, somebody who knows personnel, someone who's been a winner everywhere he's gone, except for when he was the Jets coach, I guess. But I don't know. It's really hard for me to figure out where those two guys specifically will end up. But as of now, I could see McCarthy landing in New Orleans, and I still could see Pete in Chicago.
Yeah, the Pete Carroll one is fascinating to me. Clearly last year, people were talking about Belichick. I think everyone understands why the Falcons job didn't happen. But Bill, right, it can be tough to deal with. Pete Carroll is like the most likable guy on the planet. Even though he's 72, 73, he comes off as if he's 52. I haven't heard anyone in the last 10 years really, maybe outside of Marshawn Lynch, say a bad word about Pete Carroll. If he doesn't get one in this cycle, I just think it says that the NFL, it's not an old man's game anymore, even though Pete would not project to someone that is an old school type of football coach with how he kind of interacts with everybody.
Yeah, that was when it was pretty surprising last year when the news even came out that they were essentially firing him. And I wasn't sure if that meant he was retiring or not, but then all the word got out that he still wanted to coach. So I'd be very curious to see how he talks about what the last year was like for him if he gets another job. I think the Raiders definitely will have interest in him too if they don't get Ben Johnson. If I had to guess, I would say he gets a job this cycle, but I can't say it for certain, which again, as we're saying, it's pretty surprising to me.
All righty. One of the craziest roller coaster rides I think I've ever seen in the NFL has been Sam Darnold this year. He was done. There was no reason really to talk about Sam Darnold. He played really well for 3 months. And then the last 2 weeks, I don't even know what he will go for now on the open market. I would anticipate, Zach, that McCarthy's going to be their guy next year and Darnold will be somewhere else. But how about this Sam Darnold story? Because it's been a wild one this year.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because it was only like 2 weeks ago that he was being lifted up by his teammates' shoulders and they were pouring, water or champagne or whatever it was on him. He had a great season. He looked like he had kind of overcome a lot of the demons from his career, and then they all kind of came back when teams kind of realized that he's not good against the blitz. And in these games that they needed to win or wanted to win, he didn't really come up with it. So yeah, I think a couple weeks ago you could have said he was on track to make like $40 million on his next contract. Now I have no idea. I think there's enough bad quarterbacks in the NFL that I still think he's a starting caliber guy in the right situation. I'm very curious to see what his contract looked like. And I'm very curious to see if him and the Vikings kind of look at each other and say, let's do a 1-year prove it thing. You be our bridge to the plan for him to be the bridge anyway this year, probably. Let him be the bridge until McCarthy gets healthy, give him a good amount of money, let him put some more good tape on. But I don't know, the way Kevin O'Connell was talking after the game, it didn't seem like they were planning on him being back. So it's unfortunate. Sam's such a great kid. And, he obviously went through a lot through his Jets tenure and bouncing around the league a little bit. He still deserves a shot. I'm fascinated to see what his market looks like now because everybody's going to remember the last 2 games. They're not going to remember all of the ones before that.
How about Rodgers and Davante Adams? Do you think they're both going to be off the Jets this upcoming year would be the guess?
Yeah, that's my gut. I do think to a degree the Jets are going to let whoever they hire as GM and coach have a say in it. I don't know that Woody wants him back, and I don't know that he wants to be back. So my gut for a while has been that he goes somewhere else or retires. I do wonder what sort of interest there'll be. I've been increasingly intrigued over the last few days about the idea of Aaron going to the Steelers. It just makes a lot of sense if you think about it because, they've kind of just been passing through with average quarterback play since Big Ben retired and trying to win on good defense. And I don't think Aaron Rodgers is what he used to be. He's probably better than Russell Wilson, though. He respects Mike Tomlin. I'm intrigued at that idea. That's not anything that I've heard is a possibility. But if the Steelers are still trying to win right now, which I imagine they are, and get over that hump, I think that's a very interesting pairing and marriage to me.
And you could kill 2 birds really with one stone because not only if you get Rodgers, and I do agree with you, Rodgers better than Russell Wilson, the Steelers also need another wide receiver, and I would then assume that Davante Adams would say, hey, I want to go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think depending on, unless Aaron goes to the Raiders or something, or Davante goes back to Green Bay, I think they probably are going to try and reunite if Aaron keeps playing, I would say.
All right, last thing I'll ask you, because I know Robert Saleh, right? He's been the consultant on the Packers. Is that his title? So I saw him in the press box this past weekend when I was in Philadelphia. I saw just getting a hot dog or a chicken finger or something. I'm like, oh, that's Robert Saleh. And then I saw your report that there's a lot of interest with the Jaguars and Robert Saleh. A lot of us, I thought about a few weeks ago, it'd be Ben Johnson in Jacksonville. Now I kind of agree that it's going to be Ben Johnson with the Raiders. What about the Jaguars? I would now say Liam Cohen, but what about what intel you have on Saleh and the Jags?
Yeah, I just think he has a legit shot. I don't think he's the front runner, or I'm 100% sure he's getting it, but I do think he has a lot of fans in that building, including the owner from when he was an assistant coach there. Trent Baalke staying there made that a lot less appealing of a job probably, but I think Robert would be willing to work with him, which might help him. And I think that weirdly, Woody Johnson firing Robert when he did probably helped him because the Jets got so much worse without him. I think it kind of clouded the narrative a little bit because they were kind of a mess with him, but it was way worse without him. Like the defense got bad. They were unprepared every week. I mean, they were already one of the most penalized teams with him, which people forget about, but they looked like an absolute mess. They were dysfunctional, whereas they were slightly less dysfunctional with him. So in retrospect, he like aged better because of that. But if he had like coached out the whole season and they go 8-9, then he's probably not as highly regarded right now. But because he got fired and they go 5-12 or whatever, I think it helped his candidacy. He's getting an interview with the Raiders too. Even if he doesn't get this job, I think he lands a DC job somewhere, maybe San Fran. So I think he's coming out of this looking pretty good. But yeah, I do think, and that was my prediction, I do think he has a shot at that Jaguars job. And it makes a lot of sense for him and to a degree for them, because I think they do have talent on that roster already, more than he had when he inherited the Jets job, both on offense and defense. And so it's an interesting fit is what I would say.
He is Zack Rosenblatt, senior writer for The Athletic, covering the Jets, also the co-host of the Flight Plan podcast. And Zach, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, Zach.
You got it. There he is, Zack Rosenblatt. Let's react to what he had to say on the other side. He gave a lot of coaching predictions. I'll give you my updated 6 coaching predictions for these other spots around the NFL when we come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's do some predictions right now in the coaching carousel. So I'm going to start off with one that if you would have told me this 2 weeks ago, I would say, would have never believed it. Stu, I think your Raiders are getting Ben Johnson. I would say I'm not dangerously confident, but I looked at the three teams, Bears, Jaguars, and then the Raiders. And if you want to throw in a fourth out of the 6 jobs that are now open, because we know the Patriot job is no longer open with Mike Vrabel going there, maybe you could throw in the Cowboys, but I don't think Ben Johnson's going to Dallas because of the alignment problems. So I look at Chicago, they have their GM Ryan Poles in place. I look at the Jaguars, they have Trent Baalke in place. And the Raiders being late to the party, right, with how late that they fired Antonio Pierce, and then how late that they fired, in addition to that, their GM Tom Telesco, and then the Brady connection, I think that is going to win the Raiders the Ben Johnson sweepstakes. Because why, if you were going to hire Ben Johnson, and you're the Bears, and you're Ben Johnson, right? You are now the commodity. Why is the job not already yours? You look at the Jaguars, too. Why is the job not already yours? I know he's still in the postseason and all of that. But we would have probably got reporting which way that Ben Johnson is leaning. It seems like there was a big momentum push for Jacksonville. And then Trent Baalke was announced that he was coming back, and it was like, oh, that momentum has gone away. And then Shad Khan sits right next to Trent Baalke. He's like, nope, that's still a possibility that Trent Baalke won't be here if the new head coach doesn't want him. But it seems as if we got to a point where it's got a little flat with Ben Johnson in Jacksonville. And I said this from the jump. The Bears need to hire either Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson. And I don't anticipate that they were going to get either. And could you get a Cliff Kingsbury there, Mike McCarthy? I'll give you what the prediction is in just a second. But also with this Brady doing the game, and he's going to be there in Detroit, and Ben Johnson's going to be there. I say that now, that I think Ben Johnson's going to be the Raiders coach. I wonder how we're talking about this maybe next week on Monday or Tuesday. But if I had to make a guess today, because I also said a few weeks ago when I liked Ben Johnson to go to Jacksonville, you tell Ben Johnson to zig, he zags. Right? That was a big premise for the reason going to Jacksonville, and also a bad division, and you have Trevor Lawrence, and maybe you could fix him. You got a good wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr., you got a good pass rusher in Josh Hines-Allen, and the Raiders division is the toughest, right? You're looking up, and you're like, maybe the North is tougher in the NFC, but you're looking up in the AFC West, and you're like, oh, we got Mahomes. Herbert didn't have a good playoff game, but Jim Harbaugh's there. Bo Nix had a really good rookie season. Sean Payton's there. But that alignment is so big. And the Raiders not having a GM there, and Ben Johnson maybe getting ooh and odd by one Tom Brady, I could now see him, and I'll now predict that Ben Johnson is going to be the next head football coach of your Raiders.
I'll take it. I still think it's going to be Pete Carroll, but I think
which would not be a bad hire.
No, I think it is between those two, though. I think they will end up with one of those, which is surprising because going into this, once they fired Pierce, I thought they were going to get like the 6th or 7th choice, if you will.
Because you can make the case it's the most unattractive job in the market. You can make that case when you factor in not having a quarterback division, but you look at these other jobs. Bears have a GM, Saints have a GM, Jets don't, Jaguars do, Cowboys, they basically do because you're reporting to Jerry. So it's weird that the Raiders' incompetence could actually be the biggest difference, and the Raiders' lack of direction and how bottom it is right now could be the reason why Ben Johnson may end up taking that job. Because the Bears and the Jaguars, wouldn't you be doing everything in your power to say to Ben Johnson, we really want you? And I feel like the Bears haven't done that. Their fans have. Jacksonville, they were on that road, and then once you heard that Trent Baalke was coming back, it was, ooh. And maybe, hey, when push comes to shove, they'll hire Ben Johnson and they'll blow out Trent Baalke. Maybe that ends up happening. But without knowing that to be the case, and I can't give Shad Khan the benefit of the doubt, I'll now say Ben Johnson to the Raiders. And if you would have told me that a week and a half ago, I would have said you're out of your GD mind. I really would have said that. Let's go to the Bears next. So if Mike Vrabel's off the board and also Ben Johnson's off the board, I think they're getting big Mike McCarthy. I do. Because McCarthy will get along with Ryan Poles. I can't believe it. The Bears are a more stable situation than Dallas. Like the Bears, they don't win, but they're at least trying to win. The Cowboys, they're not trying to win. They're just trying to create the most amount of drama. And Mike McCarthy is a professional head coach. The guy has won a lot of games in this league. I'm not sitting here and saying I anticipate the Bears are going to a Super Bowl with Mike McCarthy, but you will give Caleb Williams every chance to succeed with Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, I know it's easier said than done, right? I had Aaron Rodgers. How much credit should he get for that? Aaron Rodgers played some really damn good football under Mike McCarthy. Dak Prescott even has played a lot of really good football under Mike McCarthy. So I don't think the Bears are getting the top two candidates. Vrabel's already gone. Ben Johnson, I don't think's going there. So then it's like, okay, do you go with a Liam Cohen? Do you go with an Aaron Glenn? Do you do one of these coordinators that have never been a head coach before, Joe Brady? It's plausible. But I think they'll go with the veteran head coach. And I've also considered Pete Carroll there. Brian Flores has to be under consideration because of his connections with Ryan Poles, being together in college together. But that dynamic of Brian Flores and Tua Tagovailoa could scare me with Caleb Williams, even though I'm a big B-Flow guy. But I'll say it's Mike McCarthy with the Bears. Next team. All right. Let's go Jaguars. Because the Jaguars, McCarthy's off the board, Ben Johnson off the board, Vrabel's off the board. I would still really like to see Ben Johnson there, but I have him going to the Raiders now. I'm not going to believe that it's going to be Robert Saleh. It's the last two times the Jaguars have hired a coach, it's been met with praise. Urban Meyer didn't age well, but it was met with praise. Doug Peterson met with praise. I think they're going to the coordinator well here. I think my first prediction here when the job opened up was I said Pete Carroll. I don't think it's going to be Pete Carroll. I got 3 more jobs after this, so I'm not going to tell you if Pete Carroll's getting a job or not, in my opinion. I'm going to go, they go young offensive coordinator. They're going to kind of, weird to say this, because this was not their intentions when Carolina did this, but you go the model of the Carolina Panthers, where I think the Jaguars job is actually attractive. The Panthers job was not when it was opened up, but you take the offensive coordinator from Tampa Bay. Canales was the OC in Tampa Bay. I'm going Liam Cohen here, who did a good job with Baker Mayfield. And I know Baker has already redefined his career at that point, but it got even better this year. I would say that Liam Cohen, you're bringing him in, right, has the McVay background, been back and forth with the Rams in Kentucky, now on his own in Tampa Bay. I think he stays in Florida, but he goes to Jacksonville, and you try to get a good, young, innovative offensive mind in there and Liam Cohen to salvage the career of Trevor Lawrence. So I'm predicting Raiders Ben Johnson, Bears Mike McCarthy, Jaguars Liam Cohen. I have flip-flopped here, and I do think McCarthy's in play with the Saints, but I put McCarthy to the Bears. I have flip-flopped here Aaron Glenn and Brian Flores probably 3,000 times in the last 2 days. You know, I have put Aaron Glenn on the Saints, Brian Flores on the Jets, and then Brian Flores on the Saints, Aaron Glenn on the Jets. Willie Colon joined us yesterday, and he said he believes that the next head coach of the Jets is going to be Aaron Glenn. I'm going to say Saints go with Aaron Glenn, and I'm going to put the Jets with Brian Flores. I know he denied it. And this is what ultimately made me change it once again, because when I got up today, I put Aaron Glenn on the Jets and Brian Flores on the Saints. But Rosenblatt talking about Flores to the Jets, and I know that they've interviewed Grigson, and they're probably going to hire the GM first. Maybe they end up hiring Ryan Grigson. And that would kind of be a Jet move to hire Ryan Grigson. Because I don't care what you look at his record. You need context with that. Ryan Grigson ruined Andrew Luck's career. Ryan Grigson did not do a good job drafting players. But I could see the Jets, who do not appear to be a desirable organization, hiring Ryan Grigson, and then Grigson's currently in Minnesota, and then Brian Flores being the move with the Jets. So I'll say Aaron Glenn to the Saints, Brian Flores to the Jets. And that leaves me with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to say it's going to be Kellen Moore with the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think Kellen Moore would be a head coach in 31 other places. I don't, for this year, maybe down the road. He's still young, but the stock has really soured and gone south with Kellen Moore as a head coach, where a few years ago, hot commodity, hot commodity, hot commodity. He's just been bouncing around from OC job to OC job. And they're not even I know he's calling the plays, but they're not even running his offense. They're running Nick Sirianni's offense with just Kellen Moore calling the plays. But I think Dallas will ultimately get someone that they can control in there, and it will be Kellen Moore. So those are my latest predictions. Raiders Ben Johnson, Bears Mike McCarthy, Jaguars Liam Cohen, Saints Aaron Glenn, Jets Brian Flores, and Cowboys Kellen Moore. And I'll tell you this, Stu. If I get these predictions wrong, which there's a good chance I'm going to get them wrong, if it ends up being Brian Flores to the Saints and Aaron Glenn to the Jets, I'll be furious. That's the one that will piss me off the most, because I ended up saying Flores to the Jets, Glenn to the Saints, and I have flip-flopped those two about 3,000 times in the last 48 hours. That would annoy me. Anything surprise you there, Stu? Raiders Ben Johnson, Bears Mike McCarthy, Jaguars Liam Cohen, Saints Aaron Glenn, Jets Brian Flores, Cowboys Kellen Moore. Any takeaways?
I think Pete Carroll not getting a job would maybe not be surprising. Maybe that's the wrong word, but I think he should get a job. I still think he would be. I know some teams are probably afraid of the age, but in terms of the coach that he is, I think that would be a mistake to pass him over.
And hand up, maybe that's just me being a little vindictive over the fact that Belichick didn't get a job. But Belichick and Pete aren't the same person. Belichick, right, is one of the greatest coaches of all time. Pete Carroll will be a Hall of Famer too. But Pete is a lot easier to deal with, hot take of the day, than Bill Belichick. Like, Bill would have got the Falcons job if McKay and Terry Fontenot weren't afraid that they were going to lose their job. Arthur Blank wanted to do that. But we have not heard, and this is why I know that he's interviewed places, but throughout the entirety of the year, we didn't hear much about Pete Carroll. Like any team saying, oh, that they're on our radar, they're on our radar. I know people are bringing him in, but people have brought in, no offense, I know he's one of Ac's friends and he's been on this show before. Like, Ron Rivera's got 2 interviews in this cycle with the Jets and with the Bears. Do I think Ron Rivera's getting a head coaching job again? I don't think Ron Rivera's getting a head coaching job for this upcoming season. So Pete's getting interviews. And I think Pete should, I would hope Pete gets a job. But since there was not much buzz throughout most of the season, I kind of wonder now how much is this just the Carroll camp throwing a few Hail Marys out there at the last second to try to get him a job now, where I thought we would have heard more of a push from Pete Carroll throughout the season. That's just me. But I want to, if I had one wish for this hiring cycle, Pete Carroll to get a job. I want to see Pete coach again. I have predicted him in some places in the last few weeks. When I ended up doing this, I would say pen to paper, fingers to my keyboard. In that case, I just didn't have him in this go around. All right, let's get the latest update in. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, the Lions got a big lift today ahead of Saturday's playoff showdown against the Commanders as David Montgomery was a full practice participant as well as Terrion Arnold. Montgomery missed the last 3 games with a knee injury. Arnold has been sidelined by an injured foot. Mike McCarthy is looking for a new home and already has some suitors set to meet with the Bears tomorrow. The Saints also seem interested in the former Cowboys coach. Tommy Rees gets a promotion in Cleveland, becoming the Browns' new offensive coordinator. After last year's breakout season, the Thunder have taken it to another level this time around. They lead the West at 32-6 as they meet the Sixers tonight and have been led by the leading candidate for MVP so far, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The All-Star guard is just 26th and just eclipsed the 10,000-point mark.
Making sure that you can stay in the moment, control what you can in the moment is the only path to get there. So that's what I focus on, and everything else just pans out, and it's worked for me so far.
OKC has won 17 of the last 18, as good as the Thunder have been. The Cavaliers have been even better at 33-5. They'll take on the Pacers after having their 12-game winning streak, and then India's won 6 in a row, and the Kings look to make it 8 straight tonight in Milwaukee. I'm Rich Hacker.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God. We're back
How we
again.
doing? It is the Zach Gelb Show. Final segment of the day right here on the Infinity Sports Network. Just a quick note, as this is now official. We knew this was coming, but just want to be able to share this with you. You could consume our show and the Infinity Sports Network, right? 7 days a week on one of your local Infinity Sports Network affiliates. Also via the free Odyssey app and on Sirius XM. Now, our show and Maggie and Perloff's show and now JR's show in the Monday through Friday lineup, you could also stream on YouTube. But usually when you listen to us on Sirius, you listen to us on channel 158. Through the years, I think we started on 206 or something like that. Then we went to 202, and then we went to 158. We changed channels on Sirius. It's out of our control. So there was a release that came out last week that our channel is changing. We now have a new channel starting on Friday. And it will be Sirius XM channel 375. So if you consume the radio program via Sirius, we always appreciate you. We understand you could be getting into your car on Friday. You're like, 158? What the heck is this crappy programming that's on? This is not the Zach Gelb Show. This is not the Infinity Sports Network. And that's not a shot at the other programming that will be on 158. But you could listen to us on Sirius XM channel 375. I think that used to be Big 12 Radio, if memory serves me right. So channel 375 starting on Friday is how you could tune into us on Sirius XM. So that's how you can listen to us. You got a multitude of ways. One of your local affiliates. Now starting Friday, Sirius XM channel 375. Also, you can listen to us on the free Odyssey app and stream via YouTube. See, Stu, I'll tell you this as well. I may have to bring back the mug. Because when we had to do the name change from CBS Sports Radio to Odyssey, to Infinity Sports Network, I said about 400 times in that first week, the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Because, I am getting older. I've been here now doing a show since 2018, I think it was. March 2018, February 20, something like that, in different time slots. So that was kind of just ingrained in my brain, engraved in my brain. Where I remember that I left this company for 3 months, and I went to Sirius, ironically enough, and I was doing NFL radio, post-game, Mondays and Thursday Night Football, and then I also did some Mad Dog radio. And on my first show at Sirius, still, I'll never forget this. I go live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio in beautiful New York City. And I was like, oh, it's Sirius XM NFL Radio. Sorry, it's a new guy here, Zach Gelb. Just because it's muscle memory, right? So I wonder how many times we're going to start the show starting on Friday, go live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network. You're listening to us via Sirius XM channel 150. No, it's now 375. So I may have to bring the mug back to penalize myself and have some punitive action because I'm a man of accountability if I end up getting the number changed on Friday. But once again, 375 coming up on Friday. All righty, Stu. I want to get your read on this because I have a story. I'll preface it this way. And let's put you up on camera, Stu. I have a story that really may annoy you that I just read during the break.
Awesome.
What's your feelings on Brian Kelly, you being a big Notre Dame hunk?
So when he left, I was disappointed, but I really like Freeman. So after like a year, I was kind of over it. And I think they're in a better place now.
So if I would have said to you after the NIU loss, what's your feelings on Brian Kelly?
I probably would have wanted Kelly back at that point. I was pretty mad for a few days after that Northern Illinois loss for sure.
Because that meant he lost Northern Illinois, then years prior, Stanford and Marshall.
Yes, the Marshall one was, yes.
Marshall one with Charles Huff.
Yes.
So I read a story today, and it's via CBS Sports, and I'm reading it via On3's Twitter account. New. Brian Kelly tells, let's get this reporter's name right, Brandon Marcello. He is rooting for Notre Dame in the national championship. He addresses the backlash of leaving the Irish. Stu just took a big, deep breath if you're not watching us on YouTube. Quote, a lot of the guys that are on both sides of the ball are never a part of my family anymore. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what he said.
I was like, there's no way he said
They're not part of my family. No, this is what the serious quote said. Quote, a lot of the guys there that are on both sides of the ball I recruited. Obviously, I want to see those guys win it all, and I think they're in a great position. Totally excited for those guys. I wasn't leaving Notre Dame because I couldn't win a championship. You can win championships at Notre Dame. But I chose another path because I wanted a different challenge, close quotes. Your thoughts on that quote from Brian Kelly with now his LSU family.
So I understand he's rooting for Notre Dame.
Yeah, you have to say that. Could you imagine if he came out and he said, I'm rooting for the Ohio State Buckeyes?
It's easy. See, he did leave because he couldn't win a championship.
Yes.
And I know even in this era with more teams in the playoffs, I still don't. I don't think a Brian Kelly-led Notre Dame team would make the championship game.
I would agree with that. I don't think Brian Kelly would have beat Georgia, if I'm being honest.
I agree.
Brian Kelly is not the same leader of men as Marcus Freeman is. Like, Notre Dame has an easier road to make the playoff than LSU. Now, I don't know if Brian Kelly would have lost to Northern Illinois, to be fair. But if he did, I don't think Brian Kelly would have been able to save this team from the rest of the season going down the tube. Now, it's the reason why I read you this story, two parts. One, as you even alluded to, it's a load of crap, him saying, I didn't leave Notre Dame because I didn't think I could win a championship there. You absolutely did. You've talked about it before. You've acknowledged it before. And you thought, right, you looked at it, and I can't crush you for it. You looked at LSU and you said, okay, Nick Saban, Les Miles, Ed Orgeron, go Tigers. 3 championship-winning coaches since 2000. Brian Kelly's a good coach. Brian Kelly, though, if Notre Dame didn't get to this championship game, I wonder how people would view Brian Kelly. Because a lot of fans were annoyed when Brian Kelly left. And Brian Kelly brought stability to Notre Dame. You know, they were in a terrible spot. Charlie Weiss did a god-awful job there. 9-3 his first year, 10-3 his second year, then 3-9, 7-6, and 6-6. Those last 3 years were horrific for Notre Dame standards. So, Brian Kelly, people were annoyed. And after Marcus Freeman lost to NIU, people probably said, oh, I wish we had Brian Kelly back. But Brian Kelly didn't even make the playoff this year in a 12-team playoff. And Notre Dame's now 1 win away from a championship game. So it's worked out for Notre Dame. And I like Marcus. I've always liked Marcus Freeman. Now, he's had some bad losses along the way. There's no doubt about it. But Marcus Freeman and what a coach is now in the year of 2025, I just think is a better head coach and a better CEO of a program, I think is the right way to say it, than what Brian Kelly is. But do you think Notre Dame fans right now, what do you think their feelings are? I heard your feelings, but like just in general, what do you think the pulse of the fan base is on Brian Kelly? Because some days I think they wake up to hate him, and then some days they wake up and they're like, maybe we would have wanted him back.
I think most of the fan base has soured on him.
Yeah, I think it's like good riddance.
Yeah.
You know, we dodged the bullet there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so
He'd probably still be there. He'd still be at Notre Dame.
Oh, he could have been there until he retired.
Yeah.
He would have been. He was the one that left. Now, Notre Dame didn't want to move on from Brian Kelly. He wanted to just go join the LSU family and come up with an accent, which I don't even understand how he has that accent. All right, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. And someone just said for Sirius, because we're going to be on channel 375, just once again, that's 375 starting on Friday. Starting on Friday. Just want to make that clear. All righty, that will do it today. Big thanks to Thomas Hammock, the head coach at Northern Illinois. Also, big thanks to Zack Rosenblatt, who covers the NFL for The Athletic. Thanks to Stu. Thanks to Samter. Thanks to Ack. And thank you to each and every one of you. We'll be back tomorrow, everybody, I sound like Brian Kelly there for a second, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.